Good morning and welcome back to Planet Althistory. Today we are going to discuss what if Chile lost the Pacific War. Let's talk a bit about Chile. Chile is a very long country, and to get an idea how long Chile is, imagine the distance between Norway and Portugal. That's Chile for you. It's a country that also experiences the four seasons, but during Christmas, well, it's pretty hot, while June or July they tend to be very cold months. Snow, of course, it's not uncommon. Actually, it's somewhat normal in many parts due to the high elevation that exists in there, and also the cold parts in the south. With that said, yes, Chile is on the southern hemisphere, just like Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, and South Africa, for instance. Chile has snow, mountains, deserts, and it's actually one of the driest places that they have, the Atacama Desert. They also have the Easter Island, which is politically part of Chile, and there are also many other parts that are very close to Antarctica and even claims on Antarctica. Chile, of course, is not a perfect country. Of course it's not. I mean, there isn't any perfect country out there. A few years ago, there were many protests against the government. The past with Pinochet is still not really digested. The Mapuche people and other indigenous people, they want more rights and lands. Foreign companies, they are exploiting the resources and the mines of Chile, and the population complains about high prices and higher crime. There are worse places in this world, however, compared to other Latin American countries, Chile is one of the more developed places out there, and that despite all the criticism that exists. Moreover, their economy is very developed and they don't rely on other countries. They even have somewhat of big chains of companies all over Southern America. As for the times during Pinochet, we must understand that this was all because of the US and the context of the Cold War. And the US was too afraid of Allende leaning towards the Soviets and establishing a socialist state in the so-called backyard of the US. The only time where they had some real independence was from their real independence until the rise of the US, of course. So basically the 19th century, so to speak. Chile also had an important war in that century called the Pacific War, which they won against Peru and Bolivia. It helped Chile to get an edge over Peru and Bolivia. Chile expanded their territory and their pool of resources. Bolivia got cut off from the sea and lost all political relevance, and Peru went down in a wave of domestic issues and a series of corrupt presidents, which still has an influence until this day. So what if all of that changed? What if Chile lost the Pacific War? Let's first mention why Chile won the war in our timeline. In our timeline, Chile already had a better access to Atacama. Bolivia, on the other hand, had some issues with the mountains, and also supplying an army through a desert is an incredibly difficult task. Bolivian military history isn't very famous, let's face it, they even lost the Chaco War against Paraguay. The army is thus almost irrelevant in Bolivia. The soldiers, they came with low morale, low discipline, and everything seemed so unorganized. Peru, on the other hand, could have made the difference, but at the end, Peruvian estimations, they went very wrong, and let's also not forget that the defenses of Lima were pretty bad, which made it easier for Chile to enforce their demands. So how can we turn the war in favor of Peru and Bolivia? Well, let's first of all assume that the Bolivian army would either have better generals or they would coordinate with the Peruvians in a better manner. The Chileans could probably never attack through the mountains, and if the army took a couple of weeks more and went on the offensive from Peru, things would already look much better. The next point would be that Peru would need to cut the supplies that came from boat by Chile. Chile would now face a large army, have parts of the navy destroyed, and as a result Chile would be in a bad spot. Now Chile would be on the defensive and would not have enough manpower to counterattack. Attacking Lima would also be out of question, since Peru and Bolivia would have the advantage right now. Fast forward and some battles later, a treaty between the three countries could be signed, and Chile would cede territory until the Copiapo River. Bolivia gains more lands, and Peruvian companies they would win more money, while Chile would have lost the lands, manpower, prestige, and they would also face domestic problems. A good thing that might happen for Peru is that with the war won and Lima not being attacked, there would be no president who would suddenly steal the country's treasury and just abandon it. Less of Peru would be destroyed, and the elites of Lima could have more money left to invest into an industrialization of Peru and perhaps even Bolivia if the money was right and the conditions too. Bolivia would stay for some years in good terms with Peru. Railways they would be built and extended between the two countries, and also from Bolivia's heartland into the coast. Trade would increase, and future governments they would develop the city of Antofagasta, which in this alternate timeline may become one of the top 5 biggest cities of Bolivia. Some Chileans they would remain, but many Peruvians they would move there. It's entirely possible that the alliance could lead to something bigger between Peru and Bolivia, an economic union, customs union, or even a political union. They would be possible if the money would be rolling for the elites, especially in Lima. What's up, guys? Sorry for the little interruption, but I'm sure you have noticed that on my channel I have many videos that are scheduled for like 1 week, 2 weeks, or even 3 weeks. If you are really impatient, if you can really not hold yourself, and if you really must see these videos, please subscribe on my Patreon. There are various options which you can take. I'm sure you will find the most adequate option for yourself. And also please go down, check the links below for my Facebook page and also for my TikTok as well as for my Twitter account. And now let's go back to the alternate history video. Chile on the other hand would face now 2 big problems, and mainly Argentina and the Mapuche people. Argentina would most likely get more of Patagonia, and as a result Chile would be cut off from the Antarctica. This would give Argentina the opportunity to eventually claim more land there, and perhaps even have a permanent settlement in there if it would really kick off some manifest destiny type of mentality. Argentina would feel safer in the east, but it wouldn't be enough for them to just randomly invade or attack other places. Maybe Argentina would like Chile to be somewhat stable because a bigger Peru could be a bigger problem for them in the future. And Antarctican history would also probably change. It's possible that Antarctica would be directly colonized. The Mapuche people almost got their own kingdom in 1860, but the attempt isn't seen as something serious. It may even be laughable, but as a matter of fact, there was an effort of the Mapuche to become recognized and independent from Argentina or Chile. The Mapuche could, with a weaker Chile, at least get a lot of autonomy and even get their language recognized. While Chile already had the oldest settlement in southern Patagonia with Punta Arenas, it's entirely possible that Argentina could for some time be bold enough to just annex parts of it and win. Afterwards, Argentina would want to keep Chile safe, but for selfish reasons, of course. This Chile in this alternate timeline would be way smaller, more often bullied by other countries, and pretty much become the laughingstock of Latin America. While at the same time, Chile would lose some economic power, attraction for immigrants, and last but not least, the Mapuche influence would be way stronger, and it's possible that Chile would become a bilingual country, not as much as Paraguay, but very close to it. Bolivia in this timeline would lose more of their Andean influence and see a more European immigration coming from all over the continent. Peru likewise, due to a better economy with their economic union or even political union. Both countries could either keep many territories such as Acre and beating Brazil, or winning the Chaco War against Paraguay and winning some lands. Ecuador too would become somewhat of a loser in here. while the Easter Island could end up becoming British or even Peruvian. Bolivia would in this timeline not only have the tensions between Santa Cruz and the highlands, but Santa Cruz would ally itself with the Litoral to either gain more autonomy or more rights from La Paz and the highlands. But it's also possible that with the connection to the sea and a better economy, the government could buy the people, which would prevent devastating wars or declarations of independence. Moreover, it's also entirely possible that actually La Paz and Litoral, they would ally themselves with Lima and thus keep Peru and Bolivia in the same union. With more European immigration, such independence movements they would anyway lose power and attraction. The whites would not form a majority within Bolivia, but Peru could see more cities and regions with a white majority. At some point, relations between Brazil and Bolivia could change if Brazil would want to build a trade route, for instance, that would go from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Bolivia would certainly welcome it, as they already had infrastructure, and the Litoral, as well as Santa Cruz, would once again gain more money and more power from it. Brazil may potentially help Bolivia to break up from the economic union or political union it had with Peru. Argentina would be under pressure. Paraguay would be mad about having lost Chaco and even more. Chile too would want to have revenge, and Peru would be angry at Brazil for taking Bolivia away. Even Colombia, Venezuela and Uruguay, they could grow worried about this attempt of Brazil. Will Chile be able to be part of an alliance including the Peruvians and reclaim their lost lands from Bolivia? Or will Chile be beaten once more? And that's where we leave it for now.
That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my video. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment, support me also on Patreon, and join my forum, forum.planetalthistory.ga. Until next time on Planet Alt History.